I'd like to acknowledge the Wurundjeri Wurrung people as the traditional owners of the land where this recording was made. Over the past few months, I've been walking through reserves around Melbourne, Naarm, and recording conversations along the way. I've met with traditional owners and First Nations peoples, conservationists, ecologists, and others who've chosen a place that matters to them. We walk and talk about nature, what lives there, what's changed, and what needs protecting. You'll hear our footsteps, the wind in the trees, the birds overhead, and the city not too far away. This is Finding Melbourne's Nature. If you head east of Melbourne, somewhere between the city and the Dandenong Ranges, you'll find a beautiful little suburb called Heathmont. And in Heathmont, there are a lot of houses, but there's a beautiful little bushland reserve. And that reserve is about 4 hectares in size, and it's owned by Trust Nature, and it's called Uambi. It's a beautiful example of the vegetation that used to occur in the area, and it serves as a really important remnant in that landscape. We're joined by the amazing Dr Kaori Yokochi, who's an urban and wildlife ecologist, and she's going to teach us all about bats and the importance of darkness habitat corridors. We're going to learn all about the importance of the night and what role it plays in the ecosystems around us. Hope you enjoy this one. I know I really enjoyed recording it.
Do you mind starting off and introducing yourself?
I'm Dr Kaori Yokochi. I'm a wildlife ecologist and lecturer at Deakin University based at Burwood in Melbourne. But yeah, I know in terms of research, I normally kind of focus on urban ecology side of things, kind of trying to figure out, minimizing our impacts on wildlife, and so that we can kind of coexist in cities with amazing wildlife, and finding a way so that more people can also interact or, come across wildlife, come to value them, more.
Yeah.
Become more familiar with them too.
Do you have any fond memories of spaces that you've connected much with around Greater Melbourne?
Oh, heaps of places, I guess. But I'm originally from Japan, and I was lucky to grow up in a rural kind of, area of Japan, but still, Melbourne is a big city, but I'm really always kind of impressed, inspired, and also very grateful that Melbourne has such, amazing areas of parks and, in urban areas like reserves like this one that we're in. It's actually within close reach for a lot of people, most people who are living in city. And so, I think there are a lot of places that have been around Melbourne and just love going. So some of them, like in the city centre, even Royal Botanic Garden.
Oh, yeah.
Like right in the middle of the city, such a big area, like it's like an oasis, right? And visit. It's great to have that kind of, big area that actually most of the time closes to public at night, which I think is a great thing personally. So for some parks, not all of them, but some parks, because that also provides kind of refuge for all wildlife that might be living in urban areas. And I used to live close to places like Blackburn Lake as well. It's such a beautiful area to just go, walk around. During the lockdown, we were lucky that it was within the 5 kilometers.
Oh.
So with my son who was, still very young then, we used to go for a walk and just walk around and just enjoy, I guess, being in nature.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you've worked a lot on this concept of light and dark and the importance of those factors for wildlife. Can you explain that to us a little bit?
Yeah, so I've been working on kind of impacts of light pollution on wildlife, especially microbats, so small insectivorous bats that live around us in cities. And not accidentally, but stumbled onto this. I didn't really go in thinking, I'm going to study microbats and do, light pollution, but I was talking with community groups and Oh, beautiful.
Stinkhorn, yeah. So,
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and they were looking for someone who can study microbats, do kind of basic surveys and figure out what species they are. So I just put my hand up and saying I can try. And that's kind of how I got into it. But then I knew about light pollution, but I learned a bit more about it and then started to think, okay, so this, amazing group of animals, microbats, that are living with us in cities and in everyone's backyard. If you live in Australia and then, if you've got any backyards, you will have microbats flying around. Oh, look at that. So many animals out there. There was just another lizard. But yeah, so I started thinking about them but, we do put out a lot of lights, for safety or whatever the reason. And we quite often don't think about how impactful they are because every single organism that live on Earth has evolved with the pattern of the light, right? Like the daylight and then comes night. And it's such a predictive, I guess, and, reliable pattern so that most of these organisms evolved to actually use it as a cue for their biological processes. It might be reproduction, migration, whatever it is. So actually by putting light, we are disrupting that, predictable patterns of light. And that can have, massive impacts on a lot of different areas for, many different taxa. So if you actually think about it, light pollution is actually a big, big issue. And we tend to notice it because humans are diurnal species and we need light to actually see things and, go about, doing stuff. So, yeah, the more I have been learning about it, the more I'm realizing it is actually a big, big issue that we're not actually doing enough. And the great thing, I guess, in a way about it is that there are actually a lot of things that we can do even individually. So, yeah, that's kind of where I'm researching at the moment and seeing different types of light because there have been many studies I should say, done on more of this stationary lights like street lights.
yeah.
That's always in the same spot, it's always on at night time. So many studies, for example on microbats, are showing that a group within the microbats, there are groups or guilds that we tend to call them that are quite sensitive to, habitat destruction and also open areas or lit areas.
Yep.
And those tend to be kind of slower flying species, but they're more specialized in like acrobatic flying patterns. So they prefer to stay in kind of closed, areas, bush areas like this one that we're walking in. So if you set up bat detectors, you probably record some of these clutter adapted species. But those are the ones that have been found to be most impacted by lit areas because they really don't like, coming into lit areas because there is this, greater risk of predation. Because microbats are predators of flying insects, but they are also prey for owls or cats. So they tend to avoid big areas. That means they have fewer habitat that's available for them. They might have to take longer route to get to somewhere, and that longer route might not be the safest options. So just putting the light somewhere might actually have pretty big consequences for some groups of animals, including those clutter adapted species.
So would they change how high or low they can fly? Like, is there certain elements of their behaviour that they will change accordingly for...
So previous studies have found that for microbats anyways, and those species that are more impacted by lights, I should say, because all species are impacted by lights, but they are more sensitive to lights. They really tend to try to stick to unlit areas.
Yeah.
So what they will probably do is, whether they might not just come out of their roost if there's a light near the roost entrance exit wherever they are roosting, or they might actually take different route to get to their foraging site, or they just reduce their activity in those lit areas. In terms of the height, that the usual height that bats fly microbats I should say, depends on the kind of guild or species as well. So what we call open adapted species, like white-striped retail bats, tend to fly higher, or they can fly higher above canopy. But these clutter adapted species, like little forest bats, I guess, they tend to kind of be lower or within these, clutter, like this, like exactly where we're walking around now. Yeah. So within the I guess vegetated bush area.
And how many species of microbats could there be in a place like this in Heathmont on this reserve?
Here, well, I wouldn't be surprised if there were, because it's got really nice, clutter, or like a real thick bush, as well as a bit of an open area. I wouldn't be surprised if there were like 10
Really?
or 11 different species here.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's huge.
It is, I know. In the greater Melbourne region, there've been 16 or 17 different species that's been reported just for microbat species. So there are a lot of them, and they are not everywhere, but they are around us. We just don't know much about them.
Are they less prone to extinction, local extinctions and things because of the areas that they utilise, or are they very habitat dependent and we're losing a lot of habitat? What's the plight of microbats?
It depends on the species, because when we say microbats, they are, how many? Well, the bats themselves, there are about 80 species in Australia.
Yeah, right.
So, we can't just say one thing about all microbat species, but there are, species that are more threatened than others, just like any other groups of animals, I guess.
Yeah.
And for example, in Victoria, the name is really, deceiving, but what used to be called common bent-winged bat,
Yes.
are now critically endangered in Victoria. Not common at all. And these are cave-dwelling species. They need caves and abandoned mine shafts and all that to actually roost. So that kind of specialization does make them a bit more vulnerable and susceptible to habitat loss, urbanization, all that stuff as well. And one thing that any bat ecologist in Australia is worrying is that white nose syndrome, that fungus that is wreaking havoc in other parts of the world in terms of bat populations. They're pathogens that kind of can spread throughout microbats, and they can actually kill whole population or large amount of bats very quickly. It hasn't reached Australia yet, but you never know when it comes, because it can be carried by humans, and like we don't get sick, but we can carry the spores and things,
Right.
boots or whatever it is, and bring it into Australia as well. So yeah, there's a bit of a biosecurity, I guess, risk for bats as well.
What's the bat community like? Are they a tight-knit group of people?
They're awesome. That's one thing I found out once I kind of, jumped into this realm as well. Everyone I have met so far is so supportive and so keen to work with each other and help each other. And we obviously all love bats, right? So I don't know if that makes us quirky or a bit different, but I find that bat community to be really, close-knit, but, very welcoming.
Do you have a bat species you're particularly fond of?
Oh, I don't know. I find them all interesting, including, things like grey-headed flying foxes, the bigger bats.
Yes.
So, yeah, well, I love it when I can hear white-striped retail bat, because that's the only, species that we can humans can just hear the echolocation calls,
Yes.
but it's so high pitched, for human ears. As you age, you will be, you kind of lose the ability to actually hear them.
Wow.
So I'm kind of dreading the day that I can no longer hear the calls.
Your last bat call sort of thing, yeah.
So that would be how I kind of gauge how good my hearing is, I think.
And what sort of tools do you use to identify bats and understand bat populations?
Yeah, so in our research, what we have been using is mostly acoustic. So because they echolocate, even though it's in ultrasonic range and humans can't hear it, it makes it really kind of not easy but handy, I guess, for us to actually be able to kind of snoop or listen to who's around, what kind of species is around and how active they are in the area. So I use what we call bat detectors, which is really ultrasonic recorders that you can leave in place. So it's all passive. So what we will do is we will set up these bat detectors or ultrasonic recorders, set it to just record, at night time. And leave it in the place for like 2-3 weeks, and then come back, look at the recording, and from the different, patterns or characteristics of the call, we can tell most of the species apart. Not all of them, but most of them apart. So that's how we have been kind of studying what species is present in which area. For example, if we put in light, would that change, what species are around and how active they are? Recently I had an honors student, Sarah, who just finished her thesis. So we were looking at, for example, our light festival.
Oh,
How that might impact, the, species diversity and activity level of different bat species. So, the acoustic is really a great way to go because it's obviously is not as invasive as trapping, for example.
Yep.
Carp trapping. We don't get the real detailed information about bats. Like we can't tell individuals apart or anything like that. But we still get a pretty good, information about what bats are doing, where they are, and that kind of stuff.
So if at this site in Heathmont where we are, we put a bat detector out and we find some incredibly rare species of microbat, and we're all excited. What can we do to make sure that it stays in the landscape, or are there actions we can take to?
Yeah, so those rare species, especially in urban areas, tend to be those clutter adapted species that I talked about, and particularly, for example, I'm doing the quotation mark with my hands, common or eastern bentwing bats. They, prefer to stay in cluttered areas. They're light sensitive. So first thing I will recommend is make sure, all the shrubs, trees, all those things are in place. And, obviously keep the area beautiful like this, nice clutter, or what we call clutter, but vegetations from understory, mid-story to, the taller trees. And also, don't put in light, please, is what I'm going to say. Because even if you do all these restoration work and re-vegetation work that, a lot of people in a lot of organizations do, as soon as you put lights in, you might actually be doing, or undoing, I should say, all that effort for some species.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you put lights out and you're seeing more moths, it's not a good thing that you're seeing more things. You might be affecting other things.
Yeah, and some people think, because there are some species who can take advantage of, or who can forage in lit areas, and then people tend to see them more under light because a human can see better under light. But also there are more, flying insects under light quite often. But that is not necessarily a good thing, because if you think about it, you are drawing all those, insects to under light. So that has impact on the insect population itself. But also that means that bats will have to forage in that area because the insects, it's called vacuum effect.
Yep.
But insects are kind of drawn in from, other habitats where it's not lit. So the number of insects in the unlit area might actually be lower. And we are causing that by just putting the light in. And like I said, lit area, predators actually benefit from lit areas. So predators like cats, for example, in terms of microbats. So microbats might come into lit areas, especially, kind of open adapted species, but that also carries higher risk of predation for them as well. So it's not necessarily a good thing. It might be acting as what we call ecological trap, I guess.
Yeah.
So, it draws in animals for some, reason to certain areas, but that certain area might actually carry a higher risk or, I guess, harming or impacting that particular animal or species, then that's what we call kind of ecological trap. And, long term, overall, it actually has negative consequences.
This is going to be a stupid question,
No,
but I'm full of them. You probably, they may have all been stupid questions. So is it the darkness itself, or is it the darkness plus the habitat? Like, do we need, in the same way we have habitat corridors, do we need darkness corridors?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. I think we need to start thinking like that. Yeah.
So if, like, sections of, let's say in a great world, the people of Heathmont here all decided they're going to turn off their lights at 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
Would that be of benefit to wildlife, even if the habitat wasn't directly there?
I mean, the habitat being there is, really important to start with,
Yep.
so that they can actually forage and, do whatever they need to do. But then on top of that, if we can consider where, to really, the dark corridor. So, strategically, really, think, okay, how can we make sure there is a nice connected habitat which is dark for wildlife throughout their urban areas? Because like I said, I don't think it's practical, and I don't think it's good to actually turn off all the lights at 10 p.m.
Yeah.
It's just not practical, but we can think of it like certain areas we will make sure, for example, along the river, because it normally is such an important habitat within urban areas. We're not going to put lights because that is such a valuable habitat, and we want to keep it dark so that wildlife can actually use it.
So I don't know if this is jumping a step, but let's say we've got this reserve here that's surrounded by suburbia.
Yep.
If we wrote to those people and said, hey, can you just turn your lights off because it might increase the opportunities for biodiversity or health of the ecosystem, that would be an actual action.
Absolutely, I think so. And for those residents, they actually that doesn't mean they have to turn off all the lights. It actually might just mean closing the curtain, right? Because as long as the light is not getting out to their garden or into the reserve,
yes,
that is all we need. So you can definitely use lights inside the house. Maybe warmer light because it's better for humans as well. And darker, warmer lights at nighttime to help us sleep too. But close the curtains, and quite often that's all you need to do, especially if you don't have any lights outside. And it's actually, like I said, there's actually a lot we can do individually.
When did you discover this darkness and the importance of the dark?
Oh, when?
Or have you always had it as a concept in your head?
I kind of knew about it, but I properly started getting into it maybe pre-COVID, I think.
Yeah, right.
Started really getting into it. So, I knew that this concept, and I knew that it will have impact on wildlife. But then I probably started researching it, just around, 2018, 2019. And the research started with bats. And I'm getting kind of really fully into it. The more, you learn, the more you kind of, see that there's, huge impacts, but there's also a lot we can do, and a lot I can, talk to other people and spread the word.
Yeah.
like this.
And there's a community of people who advocate for the dark?
Yeah. There are. So probably the biggest or the most, what do you call it? I guess the biggest one, and very, very active one is ADSA, so Australasian Dark Sky Association.
Okay.
And they do amazing things. 'Cause it's not just ecologists, but light pollution doesn't just impact wildlife, it impacts humans, so human health. So there are actually some medical practitioners and medical researchers who are part of this association. Also, any people who do astronomy, they need dark skies, right? And also there's a big cultural impact as well, especially in Australia for like Indigenous people. Because sky is, part of their country and part of their, Dreamtime story. And so by not being able to see stars, they might be losing part of their cultural, history, the important learnings and stories that's intertwined with it. So there's so many different, aspects that's impacted by light pollution. And great thing about ADSA, I guess, is that all those people kind of come together. And also just people who likes to look at the star, right? Stargazers. And they all come together and try to, figure out what to do. And there was this awesome symposium earlier this year? Last year? I don't remember. That brought, all sorts of different professionals, researchers, practitioners together in Melbourne for 2 or 3 days. And all we did was talk about how we can conserve, dark skies. And there were people like, light designers, urban designers talking about it as well, people from advertising companies, because, they're lit up, illuminated ads and so on as well. And so it was really, really great. And they do a lot of public seminars and things like that too.
Are there different voltages or types of lights that can be used that lessen the effects, or is it generally just a light and dark sort of thing?
There are, any light will have impact, but they are less impactful lights, I guess. So it's not everything. One thing is for sure, the darker, the better. Right. So less brightness, I guess, is a main thing. Well, first of all, no light is the best, and then darker is better. But even then, the color, so for example, or color or spectrum, I guess. So redder or warmer color tends to be less impactful, but it's not, for every single species either. So in general, we say warmer, redder color is better. So that's why I was saying, in your home, you might not want to have red light in your house, but warmer color, those orangey, warmer, nice color is better, and darker one. So for example, if you're capable, maybe, put in the dimmer switch in one of your lounge room lights, and then at nighttime dim it so that it's not as bright, and then just close the blind or close the curtain, and that will go a long way. And also obviously not shining towards upwards, because what we want to minimize is that light that's going up. So actually lighting up the surface that we need to see, right? Because light, we can only see light when it hits the surface. So there's no point putting the light upwards, because it's not hitting the surface. It's not doing anything to us, but it's doing a lot of damage to wildlife and, and everything. So, shine it down just the surface that you need to see at the lowest, level possible in warmer color, and turn it off when you're not using it. So, things like sensors, motion sensor, if it's outside, in your porch or door. Definitely don't just have them on all the time.
Right.
Saves your energy as well.
Yeah, that's it.
Cheaper for you too.
I guess working in urban ecology, you must come across lots of different aspects of what's out there and what's in Greater Melbourne and so forth. Do you foresee Melbourne and Greater Melbourne as having lots of good opportunities for species to continue to live alongside us, or do you see there being great threats? What are your... I know it's a broad question.
It's a good question. There are a lot of threats, but the thing is, I think people are, including us researchers, learning more and more about these threats, and also learning or coming up with solutions. And public as well in general, I think, or I feel a bit more aware as well. So like with the help with, things like social media or all these kind of community engagement and stuff. There are quite a few citizen science projects, for example. All of those help with, raising awareness. And quite often there are a lot of things that public can do. And I feel like people in Melbourne are kind of, coming together or, jumping on that. I guess we're going to actually do better or minimize the impacts that we have on wildlife. And another big thing is obviously, it's people as well, the general public, but also government regulation and things like that are massive as well. So there are lots of petitions. For example, ADSA actually ran a petition to Parliament, actually, collecting, the signatures to call for proper regulations of light pollution, because we don't have it in Australia. But other countries like France, they have it. They have, that having that regulation, proper regulation, actually made a massive difference. For example, in France, so ADSA, called for this petition, and I think it ended up being like 12,000 or more people signing it. And so once you learn about it, I think it's a lot of people. Most people want to do the right thing, or don't want to be impacting wildlife. And people love seeing all the sorts of different birds, sorts of different things living with us in cities. So I am hopeful, I think. There are big issues that we are trying to work with and try to find solutions for. But I do see amazing people, meet amazing people as well, who are doing amazing work and also very keen to be involved in things. So,
What are your thoughts if you're living in Greater Melbourne and you want to do something? You're feeling a bit helpless, maybe you're feeling a bit overwhelmed by looking after conservation issues in general. Any thoughts of some steps that people could do?
Yeah, well, I guess one thing would be there are a few different things obviously you can do. So joining, local groups like Friends of, quite often your local park reserves will have Friends of group, and they'll be doing amazing work like, weeding or, planting for that particular reserve. Joining them is awesome, because you are taking action, but also you will meet like-minded people. You can chat about, all these things and nerd out, which is awesome for your mental health as well. And, that action really helps you mentally as well. I think taking that action, feeling like you're actually doing something actively, not just hearing about it and being worried about it, but actually taking a step, even if it's a small step, means a lot. And so Friends Group or, like Trust for Nature, there are a lot of organizations who are doing amazing work as well. So maybe support them and go out and, find all these amazing reserves around Melbourne. Learn about all these issues, I guess, because once you learn the issues, you will probably learn some of the solutions as well. So like, light pollutions, there are a lot we can do individually as well. So maybe start turning the light off and, start closing the curtains and blinds. I know my husband. He said every single night, I was like, we got to close those blinds. He's like, we got to open it in the morning again. I was like, no, we're closing those blinds.
So it's hit home, like it's actually...
Yeah. And we've got dimmer switch as well in the lounge room. And we, picked the warmest color possible for, any outdoor, but also inside. There are a lot we can do. And also one great thing everyone can do is talk about this and, talk to people. Because I really think most people are not doing, things because they want to impact wildlife or anything like that. It's in most cases that they are just not aware, I guess, the impacts that they might be having by just having those, porch light on. So just talking to people and kind of, maybe suggest, hey, maybe this could be, something that we can do and kind of work with them and, raise awareness. I think it goes a long way.
And I figure this light pollution thing, there's probably so much to it that we don't understand, lots of aspects of ecology, but like that concept that this might be having effects on things that we don't realise for another 10 years or something else like that has impacts. So there's probably multiple benefits in doing things.
Yeah, for sure. And, like I said, it's human health impacts as well. So on that front as well, researchers are finding out more and more about the impacts of these lights on humans and, different types of lights. It's not just light as well. Quite often, especially in urban areas, there's noise as well. So noise impacts or, noise pollution is another thing that we tend not to think about as well, how impactful they might be, especially those that we can't hear. So I'm really interested in looking into ultrasonic noise as well. Because now I started looking into bats. I'm like, this ultrasonic range that humans can't hear, but obviously a lot of other animals can hear. And especially microbats, they rely on being able to actually hear their own echolocation calls, right? Because that's how they navigate.
Yeah.
And being able to almost see where they're going and catch these, insects that they need to eat. If that space is filled with noise, what is happening to those microbats?
Wow.
So that's why I haven't, came up with any.
This stuff blows my mind.
Yeah, I know.
Going down a wormhole.
Because as humans, we're humans, right? So we see what we can see, we hear what we can hear, but we tend not to think about other, parts of, visual spectrum or noise, range, frequencies. But birds and, animals, bats, amphibians, they all see and hear in a different way. And if you start thinking about it, there's so much we don't know. Yeah, it's fascinating, but also there's a lot to be done, I think. Yeah.
Oh, and it's when you get into those intricate relationships where you're like, there's an orchid, there's a pollinator, there's a fungi, and you're like, oh my God, there's so
things
much.
that we didn't realise, what fungi is actually doing for the trees. And
it's just such a big thing. What attracted you to urban ecology? What brought you to that space?
I don't know, it's just something that a lot of people have around, because, on Earth, most people live in urban areas, right? And then traditionally, I think until like 30, 40 years ago, there weren't much happening in urban areas because people just assumed this habitat is, no good and kind of gone. These are just for humans. But we are more and more kind of realizing and discovering, I guess, that a lot of species, a lot of wildlife actually live with us in urban areas. And if we, kind of design and also, I guess if we are mindful in terms of how we use our areas or, how we develop urban areas, then we can actually coexist with this, amazing array of wildlife, plants, fungi, whatever it is. And they are, some of these species that still live in urban areas, there are some amazing, fascinating, resilient species as well. So I think it's just that fascination, that realization, but also thinking that this is where a lot of people, vast majority of people on Earth will grow up. So for them to be able to find that connection with nature, it would be really, really critical, I think, for, future generations if we want people to actually care about nature, because you have to learn about it first, right? You have to learn to appreciate it first. And I lived in Tokyo for a year, and that sucked. For me, anyway. A lot of people like Tokyo because it's a big city, lots to do. But, even thinking about it now, all the species that I will come across is like, crows, sparrows, and cockroaches, rats. There weren't much going on, but I was lucky, like I said, to grow up in rural area. So growing up, I had a lot of, experience in running around in bush and doing a lot of things, being muddy and everything.
So you had that right since a kid, you really grew up with that?
Yeah. I loved animals, and I just loved running around and, covered in mud. I will show up to school covered in mud because we will all walk to schools as well,
really?
Especially in rural areas in Japan from, grade 1. And there were lots of like rice paddies and, kind of bush areas around me, heaps of frogs and, really? Tadpoles and all sorts of cool invertebrates. I'll be in there catching those things. I was pretty well known, I think, in the area as this kind of wild kid who was in a rice paddy getting muddy. But yeah, I grew up like that, luckily. So I think I naturally kind of learned to appreciate it, and I enjoyed, being in nature and that kind of stuff. But if you just, grow up in city, like place like Tokyo or middle of Tokyo, where you don't come across any of those, and even the parks are so manicured, and you only see certain number of bird species and stuff like that, then I don't think you will really develop that appreciation, and you wouldn't learn to really value the nature. So I think it's really important to have this kind of reserve where people can come and just sit like we're doing now and just be immersed and enjoy exploring. So yeah, urban ecology in that sense I think is important, because then by encouraging that coexistence of humans but also nature will mean that there will be more nature that human can experience and learn to and appreciate more. So
when you were this little mud kid,
mud kid,
muddy kid running around the bush and everything, did your path towards this seem clear? Like, did you?
Not really. I don't know. I was just enjoying being muddy. So, but I can definitely, looking back now, I can definitely see how it happened, I guess. So I was always interested in animals. I always loved any kind of animals. So, tadpoles, snakes, will come across snakes sometimes and I'll just observe it. Or, these little bugs in summer. There are a lot of cicadas in Japan. And how they have shells when they come out. There are heaps of them, and I used to collect them. My mum didn't appreciate, my box is full of these cicada shells just sitting there. Once, I think, my brother and I and cousins released some cicadas inside the house. They did not appreciate, but anyway, so, all of these things, I think, I always loved animals. A great thing was my mom was also interested in environmental issues and stuff. So, and she knew that I was interested in wildlife, right? So she, I guess when I was like late primary school, early high school, she started taking me to all these kind of public seminars about, this, wildlife issues and stuff like the ones that I'm doing now, I guess. But used to take me there and, I'll listen and kind of start to realize that it's not all great, like things are happening to wildlife and some wildlife is, kind of disappearing. So that's kind of when I started a bit more seriously, I guess, thinking about, it wasn't really like, I want to be a wildlife ecologist, but it was more purely like, I want to learn more about this. And, by doing that, maybe I can find a way I can, help or contribute to these, issues. So kind of that's where, I guess, it started.
And so your mum would have got to see that come to fruition?
Yeah, she sure did. When I was in high school, like late high school, when we were thinking about what to do after high school, it's what's expected in Japan is you just go into one of the universities and just do a degree and then go into workforce. But I was like, I'm adamant. I want to learn about, this wildlife conservation thing. So I was looking for universities in Japan. I couldn't find it. So me being stubborn, I guess, I was like, no, I'm just not, I'm just going elsewhere then. So I actually, decided to study abroad. And I was really lucky that my parents were kind of open to that idea.
Wow.
They knew I was stubborn as well. So,
you mentioned your mum.
Yeah.
Has there been some other people who've been really influential in your conservation career?
Yeah, well, when I started, researching bats as well, people like, Dr. Lindy Lumsden.
Amazing.
Well. Yeah, she's amazing. So people like that, it was like, oh, that's so amazing. She knows so much about bats, but she's like one of the nicest people you ever meet.
Yeah.
And like you constantly kind of meet those people, right? So that's definitely one of the big reasons why I'm still here kind of doing this. And I really enjoy, working in this area, I think.
Can I ask, while we're sitting here, we're looking out on a bush scene, we're sitting on a nice little bench.
Yeah. It's hot.
You've got a lens that I don't have and that most people don't have, right? And you can see something that I can't see. And it's an amazing skill that you have. You can, in fact, you can see a million things that I can't see because you're very across so much stuff. But when you look out across this vista that we can see here, if you put your microbat lens on, are you seeing anything that could be habitat or that's important for microbats in general?
All sorts.
Right.
I just love this amount of undergrowth or, the understory that we have in this reserve. So, yes, we have this walking path, but that's about it, right? Everywhere else, we've got these, amazing understory happening, and that's so important for insect diversity as well, which definitely obviously helps microbats too, but also, all these trees, mid-story, the big trees as well, that creates this nice cover. Also big trees with these barks, just that hanging barks. Microbats could be just roosting in there as well, species, because they can just find these little nooks. And there's some, great big trees here that will probably have a lot of hollows, and those are great, amazing for microbats too. And I don't see light, which I love. Yes, there are houses, but they're quite far away, and it's really, really nice habitat to have in, right in Heathmont, right next to the train station, pretty much.
That's right.
Yeah, and the shops there and stuff. But this would be a really nice kind of oasis or refuge for these microbats that's living around here.
Could we be pretty close to one right now without knowing?
Yeah, for sure. I reckon we will be. Yeah, somewhere in these tree barks, there might be some sleeping in there.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, thank you for illuminating, or I don't know what the opposite of illuminating is if we're talking about dark.
No, illuminating is good. We love light puns. Dark side of the issue. Yeah. Shining the light on things. Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, it's full of those.
Thank you for helping me understand this so much more. And you're an amazing communicator. And you've got so much knowledge. And I'm so excited that you're teaching a whole generation of people through your work. And
yeah, I love that side of my work as well. Teaching, the next generation.
Are you seeing some exciting prospects come through and people who've got...
Yeah. Well, I get inspired by my students as well, how passionate they are, how knowledgeable they are as well. Some students, man, they know so much about, for example, birds. One thing I talk to my first year students in my class is that we're all here to nerd out. Don't be afraid to, then talk about your stuff passionately, because maybe, coming through high school, you might not be able to do it, but here is the place to do it. And everyone will appreciate it. So
it's a safe place for nerds.
Yeah, exactly. It's the place to be. Anyway, their amazing amount of knowledge and passion, and also this, I guess, desire to learn. And I kind of definitely understand that, because that's exactly what I had, when I was coming to Australia and, picking what to do after high school and things. And it's so exciting for them to be kind of learning from us, but also learning from each other, and then building that really close, I guess, connection and network with each other. And then, in graduates, we see that still going, and they're, kind of inspiring each other, helping each other, supporting each other. So, I love that part of my work as well.
The incredible Dr Kaori Yokochi. I learned so much during that session. I encourage you to check her out online and read some of her publications. Really, really fascinating stuff. She also does some presentations. If you get a chance to see her in public, I'd go along and listen to one of her talks. If you want to check her out on Gardening Australia, she did a recent episode. And if you really want, you could become one of her students at Deakin, which would be absolutely an amazing experience. Finally, if you want to hear more of these episodes, check out findingmelbournesnature.com or check us out on your favourite streaming services. And please send us a review or tell us how you're feeling about the series, because I love hearing what you think. Thank you so much.